During day one of Sean Combs' criminal trial, we heard some celebrity names come up. They were listed on a people and places list that was given to prospective jurors as names that might come up during the trial when it kicks off next week.
Because I saw you at a Diddy party, Tyler. And you were having a glorious time.
Rumor that have been going on about my relationship status, let me make it clear to you all. I'm not gay. For those of you spreading rumor Jalla Kelly because you find out I'm gay, that's a big lie.
The Diddy trial will forever change how you see Tyler Perry. And it starts with what he's not saying.
The time this person was sexually harassing me for years.
It's not just about who's on trial, it's about who stayed silent, who kept showing up in the same rooms, who built entire careers preaching one thing, while quietly standing next to something very different. No one expected his name to come up. No one thought he'd be part of the whispers.
Does Tyler Perry have a hand in these Diddy parties as well?
He go to him and Oprah. They like Diddy party.
But now, the silence is starting to sound like something else, and the image he spent decades protecting might not survive what's coming next. The Diddy trial has put nearly every celebrity in his orbit under a microscope. But out of all the famous names connected to him, one silence stands out the most: Tyler Perry. Perry hasn't released a single statement, not even a vague social media post. And that's got people talking, because for someone who built an empire off Christian values and moral lessons, being this quiet in the middle of one of the industry's biggest scandals feels off. Especially when you look at who's speaking up. Cassie through her lawsuit, Jaguar Wright through her interviews, Christian Keys through his commentary. But Tyler, nothing. And this isn't just about a missing tweet, it's about proximity. Because Tyler Perry didn't just know Diddy, he shared his spaces. The elite gatherings, the private events, the same rooms where, according to multiple court testimonies, some of Diddy's worst behavior happened.
Because I saw you at a Diddy party, Tyler. And you were having a glorious time.
It's not just hearsay. Over the years, Tyler Perry and Diddy were repeatedly spotted at the same exclusive events. BET Awards, private mogul parties, even spaces curated by mutual power players like Jay-Z and Beyoncé. That's what makes Perry's silence louder than most. Because while he hasn't been accused of any crimes, and no court filings name him directly, fans are asking the same uncomfortable question. If you weren't part of that world, why were you always invited to it?
Does Tyler Perry have a hand in these Diddy parties as well?
He go to him and Oprah. They like Diddy party.
The deeper this trial goes, the more people start digging into those behind-the-scenes layers. Because for years, Perry's brand has been built on morality. The Christian playwright who rose from homelessness to billionaire status. The man who gives back, who builds studios, who helps Meghan Markle and Prince Harry escape British tabloids. But when real names start getting named, and Tyler Perry still doesn't say a word, people can't help but wonder what he's trying to protect. His image or something deeper? And that brings us back to today.
With us, week 2 of testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial, starting with multiple witnesses who say they saw Diddy being physically violent toward his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura.
As Diddy's trial exposes more disturbing allegations, social media timelines have started to light up with Perry's name. Not because he's accused of anything, but because his silence doesn't match his brand. Because the company he kept is starting to look darker. Because this time, people are actually paying attention. Tyler Perry has always said his work is fictional, but to a growing number of viewers, that's starting to sound like a cover. For starters, his BT Plus series, Ruthless, centers around a fictional religious cult called the Rakudushis.
You were all chosen. Your children are chosen.
From the outside, it's just entertainment. A high drama show full of twisted rituals, control, abuse, and blind loyalty. But for many fans watching in 2024, it doesn't feel so fictional anymore. The show's portrayal of spiritual manipulation, sexual coercion, and ritualistic behavior isn't just uncomfortable, it's familiar, because these are the same types of behaviors being described in the lawsuits against Diddy. The same atmosphere of silence, the same obsession with control, the same talk of initiation. And it's raising the question, why did Tyler Perry, a man known for family dramas and faith-based messages, suddenly create a series about a cult?
Tyler Perry's latest movie has
Worst movie ever.
Yeah, God.
Humiliation ritual.
Yeah, in the first 8 minutes, just what the I mean.
But maybe it hits a nerve because it's hitting too close to home. According to Boondocks producer Carl Jones, Perry has long had a reputation for running his sets in a different kind of way. Former cast members talked about mandatory prayer circles, intense loyalty tests, and even the feeling that you were being watched during auditions.
And so Gary was telling us about all of this stuff that he was experiencing, like the prayer circle, how they all were like in this prayer circle, and Gary was talking about how, he was not engaged in the prayer at all. Like he was like looking around, looking at the people in the circle and stuff like that, and he didn't get a call back.
And just like that, Tyler's film, Ruthless, stops feeling like fiction. It starts feeling like an autobiography with a script. Now add in the fact that Perry still hasn't said a word about Diddy's trial, despite multiple people calling out the very same behaviors Ruthless dramatizes. And the questions just keep piling up. It's not confirmed, but all evidence suggests that Perry has seen, or at least heard of, the type of environments Diddy was hosting. So why replicate that darkness in a show and still stay silent in real life? Some conspiracy theories go even further. They point to the timing of Ruthless premiering during the early days of increased scrutiny on elite Black Hollywood circles. They cite Perry's access to the same exclusive parties that Diddy allegedly used for recruitment and control. They connect dots between art and experience, and suggest that Perry may have been closer to that world than he wants to admit. Still, Perry has never commented on any of this. He hasn't addressed the cult comparisons, the Boondocks episode, or the real-life parallels between his show and what's now being revealed in courtrooms. But that silence, it's not protecting him anymore. The more people rewatch Ruthless, the more they notice just how specific it is. Not just in the storyline, but in the mood, the manipulation, the hierarchy, the way fear is used as a tool, the way women are controlled and men are tested. None of that feels random. Perry's shows always had a strange edge to them, but Ruthless felt personal, like he saw that stuff, or lived near it. So even though Perry isn't being charged, even though he's not in the headlines, even though the show is technically fiction, fans are starting to ask the question out loud. What kind of man makes a show like this, in a time like this, and says nothing? Because right now, the Ruthless characters aren't the only ones being scrutinized. So is their creator. For over a decade, rumors about Tyler Perry's sexuality have followed him. And while Perry has always kept his personal life private, that silence hasn't stopped the speculation. Especially now that his name keeps popping up in conversations about Diddy's inner circle. Let's be clear, Perry has never confirmed or denied any of the rumors. But the public's interest in this topic didn't come out of nowhere. It started with Medea, Perry's most famous character. A gun-toting, God-fearing grandmother played by Perry in drag, was always polarizing.
This is my house. You live by my rules when you're in my house.
Some fans loved her. Others, like Spike Lee, accused Perry of reinforcing harmful stereotypes. But over time, Medea became more than a character. She became a symbol. And for critics, she was also a question mark. Why was a straight Christian man so committed to this persona? Then came the Boondocks. In 2010, the show aired an episode titled Pause, which featured a character named Winston Jerome, a cross-dressing playwright who led a cult-like theater group and manipulated young male actors under the guise of Christian values. Fans instantly saw the parallels to Perry, and according to Carl Jones, one of the producers, Perry was furious about it. So furious, in fact, that he called the network and demanded they never air the episode again.
And they called us kind of like screaming at us like, yo, for real, like no bullshit. Like, you can't do that. Don't try to play no fucking games. Like, you can't.
Jones later revealed that they had to change the character's name because the original script directly used Tyler Perry, and the character initially looked just like him. Even then, Perry wasn't just mad about being parodied. He was reportedly concerned that some of the material hit too close to home.
I asked Jesus, how can I further spread your message on? And he said, cross-dressing.
And this is where things get messy. Because when Diddy's trial started bringing up dark rumors about private parties, ritualistic behavior, and male-on-male acts framed as initiation or submission, some of those same whispers found their way back to Perry. Again, Perry hasn't been accused of anything, but people noticed that he and Diddy were frequently spotted at the same Hollywood functions, the same elite rooms, the same invite-only parties now under fire. So when Christian Keys started talking publicly about what really happens behind those closed doors, some fans weren't shocked. For context, on December 16th, actor Christian Keys posted a video that shifted everything. In it, he didn't name names, but he didn't need to. He said he had been abused by a male figure in entertainment, someone he once considered a brother, a mentor, someone powerful, famous, and deeply respected. And immediately, fans pointed to Tyler Perry.
Time this person was sexually harassing me for years.
Christian had spoken before about how much he respected Tyler, called him a mentor, said he helped open doors, and then, out of nowhere, he accused an unnamed mentor of serious abuse, while mentioning that his lawyer had the evidence, the video, the names, and the full breakdown in case anything happened to him. His exact words, "Several family members and my attorney have the proof. If anything happens to me, that information will come out." The reaction was immediate. Fans flooded Perry's social media pages. Accusations spread, and Perry, usually silent about internet rumors, broke character. In an unprompted response, he addressed the speculation about his sexuality and said the rumors were a big lie.
Rumor that have been going on about my relationship status, let me make it clear to you all. I'm not gay. For those of you spreading rumor Jalla Kelly because you find out I'm gay, that's a big lie.
But Christian's claims weren't about sexuality. They were about power and abuse. The deflection raised more questions than it answered. This came at a time when Diddy's trial was already confirming the existence of NDAs, manipulation, and coerced silence. Christian's video didn't exist in a vacuum. It existed in the exact same world Cassie was testifying about. And now, with both Jaguar and Christian drawing invisible lines around the same culture, it no longer felt like separate incidents. It felt like a pattern. It's not confirmed. But all evidence suggests the speculation about Perry's sexuality and social circle isn't just about who he loves. It's about power, influence, access. In this industry, rumors often follow power. And Perry is one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, especially among Black creators. That power protects him, but it also isolates him. Because now, as people question how Diddy maintained so much silence for so long, they're also wondering about Perry's silence. Why hasn't he said anything? Especially when he spent his entire career selling stories about redemption, integrity, and faith. Some fans say the reason is simple. Perry has nothing to say because there's nothing to hide. Others say it's the opposite, that he's staying quiet because he knows the conversation is too close for comfort. And that brings us back to the rumors. For years, Perry's name has been whispered in conversations about down-low culture in Black Hollywood. The coded interviews, the unspoken rules, the fear of being outed or excluded. But what used to be gossip on anonymous blogs is now being discussed out in the open. Because when an empire like Diddy's starts crumbling, the people around him get examined too. And if Tyler Perry built his brand on being a clean, Christian, self-made man, what happens if the public starts to believe that was just the surface? The truth is, Perry's legacy might survive the whispers. But with Diddy's trial dragging more names into the public, the lines between gossip and exposure are getting harder to draw. And the people who used to laugh off the rumors, they're not laughing anymore. In fact, one person who is particularly angry at Tyler is Monique. For years, Monique was labeled bitter, difficult, angry. People said she was just mad she wasn't getting work, that she was ruining her own career. But in 2024, with Diddy's trial tearing through Black Hollywood's inner circle, a lot of people are going back and watching her interviews again. And this time, they're seeing it differently, because Monique didn't just call out unfair treatment. She named names. She said Tyler Perry blackballed her, that he slandered her behind closed doors, that he promised to apologize publicly and never did. And she says she has the audio to prove it. Let's go back to the beginning. In 2009, Monique delivered a powerhouse performance in Precious, a film produced by Tyler Perry and other big names. When the Oscar buzz started building, Monique made it clear she wasn't going to travel overseas to promote the film without a proper contract. That decision, choosing family and rest over unpaid press, was enough to make her a target. Suddenly, the same people who once championed her were quietly turning their backs. Tyler Perry reportedly told people Monique was difficult, that she was hurting her own opportunities. And just like that, one of the most acclaimed actresses in Hollywood found herself locked out. But Monique didn't stay quiet. In recent years, she's been telling her story everywhere, especially on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay podcast. In a fiery 3-hour conversation, she broke down everything that happened behind the scenes. And she wasn't vague.
But the conversation kept going on, only for Tyler Perry to admit he did start a rumor that I was difficult to work with. He lied.
She said Tyler Perry promised to go public and set the record straight. He even said he'd do it in front of her husband. But when the time came, he didn't show up. She says she recorded the conversation. And when Perry ghosted her, she passed the audio to Al Sharpton, hoping for mediation. Then months passed. No response. The next time she saw Al Sharpton, he was on stage saying, "We don't need to fly commercial. We can fly Tyler Perry's private jet." That moment said everything. And it hit even harder when the Diddy trial began exposing how power moves in silence. Because if the people with influence can shut you out, if they can get pastors, producers, and platforms to turn a blind eye, then what Monique experienced might not have been an isolated incident. It might have been the system working exactly how it was designed. For Monique, it was never just about a movie. It was about what happens when you stop playing the game. And when you refuse to be quiet, the people who once smiled in your face will make sure your phone stops ringing. And that's exactly what happened.
Now when it comes to movies, I'm a difficult person to work with. Anybody ever had a problem with me?
They never said, did anybody say that prior to Precious?
Yes. No, not prior to Precious.
Right.
I've never had a problem with nobody. As long as I was saying, yes, you good. The moment you start challenging, we got a problem.
She didn't get new roles. Her comedy tours went under-promoted. She was mocked online. But now, as Diddy's inner circle gets dragged into court, and everyone's past behavior is being reevaluated, her story sounds less like a grudge and more like a warning. Because Tyler Perry's silence isn't new. And if he could push Monique out of the spotlight without ever saying a word in public, imagine what he could do behind closed doors. Even Perry's supporters have a hard time defending this part of his legacy. For someone who built his reputation on giving black actors opportunities, turning his back on one of the most talented women in the business doesn't make sense. Unless you understand how Hollywood actually works. Power is protected, image is curated, and truth is buried. But Monique didn't let hers stay buried. And now, after years of being ignored, her voice is echoing louder than ever. Because maybe the reason she was punished wasn't just that she said no. It's that she said it to the wrong man. One who knows how to make people disappear without ever raising his voice. And that, in today's climate, is exactly the type of behavior people are finally paying attention to. You see, Tyler Perry built an empire by doing what no one else could. He wrote every line, directed every scene, financed every set. And it worked, at least on the surface. His films made millions. His studio in Atlanta became the pride of Black Hollywood, and the industry called him a pioneer, a mogul. But behind the success was always a different story, one that fans and critics are only now starting to take seriously. Because Diddy's trial didn't just make people question individual celebrities, it forced the public to reevaluate what power looks like in Hollywood. And when that lens turns on Tyler Perry, some uncomfortable truths start to surface. Take his labor disputes. In 2008, Perry's production company was accused of firing writers who tried to unionize. The Writers Guild of America filed an unfair labor practice claim, arguing that 4 writers were terminated after seeking contract negotiations. Perry's team said the issue was performance-related, but many saw it differently. Years later, Perry made headlines again for choosing non-union writers over experienced professionals. His defense: he wanted full creative control. But critics said it was about money and power, and that cutting corners on writing meant sacrificing quality. In 2023, comedian Lonnie Love reignited the debate, publicly calling out Perry after his film's Divorce in the Black earned a 0% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. "I love that Tyler is paying black actors now," she wrote on X. "But I wish he would hire black writers and directors with experience." She wasn't alone. Fans quickly jumped in, saying Perry's insistence on writing everything himself was hurting his legacy. Some said his movies felt rushed, shallow, or predictable. Others called them formulaic, saying Perry cared more about volume than substance. And yet, even as his creative decisions drew criticism, Perry remained protected, insulated by wealth, praise, and powerful friends. Until now, because Diddy's trial opened the floodgates. Suddenly, the public isn't just asking, "Did this person commit a crime?" They're asking, "How much did they see? How deep were they in that world? What did they ignore to stay successful?" And for Perry, that's a dangerous question, because his success has always come with contradictions. He's praised for uplifting black voices, yet accused of perpetuating stereotypes. He claims to stand for morality, yet stayed silent while working with people now under investigation. He built a brand on Christian values, while writing shows like Ruthless, which depict cult abuse and spiritual corruption in disturbing detail. And then there's his friendship with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. In 2020, Perry offered them his $18 million mansion and private security during their exit from the royal family. The press framed it as generosity, but Perry quickly backtracked in interviews, saying, "I didn't help them. Meghan's from California. She knows it well." Even that kindness became strategic, carefully edited for the public, downplayed when it became inconvenient. It's the same pattern we see in his relationship with Monique, with the WGA, with critics like Spike Lee, with the Boondocks parody, with the growing fan backlash over the quality of his productions, and now with Diddy. Because Perry might not be on trial, he's not in any legal filings, but that's not the only standard anymore. The real question is, can the image he built survive public doubt? What happens when fans start looking past the Medea wig and see a man who knew how Hollywood worked and played along? What happens when people remember how many voices Perry could have amplified, but chose not to? What happens when those silly rumors from Jaguar Wright, Christian Keys, and Carl Jones don't feel silly anymore? The trial changed everything, not just for Diddy, but for the entire elite circle he moved in. And Tyler Perry's place in that circle is no longer invisible. He may never be charged, he may never be exposed by name, but his silence, his decisions, and his proximity to power are now part of the conversation. And no carefully crafted movie script can write him out of that. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.